Who are the White-Clad members? We all know the White-Clad are trying to bring about another cataclysm, but this time to turn the planet into another sun. And there's no denying some of the members are more evil than others, but aren't you curious about where their story will lead and if the Evangelist will be successful? Then keep watching, because today is all about the organization dripped down in white. And if you're anime only, we're going into spoilers. The first thing we need to look at is its divisions. There are 4 in total, and each one has a different leader and list of objectives set by the Evangelist. The Great Cataclysm Execution Specialist Force is pretty self-explanatory. It's a team meant to push forward the Evangelist's goal of making Earth into a star, and to do that, they want to get rid of anyone who got in their way. But their team is also meant to create a false sense of hope before ripping it away and driving the entire world into despair. The leader of this faction is a guy named Fairy, who originally wanted to be a protector for Sho Kusakabe. With his power to control mass and to create an illusionary version of himself, even someone as strong as Sho can't take him down. The Knights of the Ashen Flame should be more familiar because we've seen them since Season 1. They're led by Sho, who was brainwashed and controlled into taking the role by the real person in charge of the unit, Haomiya. She just didn't want to deal with all the responsibilities involved in being at the head of it. Among the group is also Charon, seeing as he's Haomiya's protector, and Arrow, who is Sho's guardian. But this unit also includes Flail, Haran, Lisa, Mirage, and ever-changing Yona, some of which have died or left the team entirely. Speaking of Yona though, this being comes from Adola itself, and isn't a human like the other members of the Ashen Flame. He could change his appearance on a whim, and manipulated history to serve the Evangelist's purpose hundreds of years ago. Yona's also immortal. He posed as Raffles and replaced the human counterpart to rewrite things and led to a successful cataclysm. His only purpose is to bring about this event and return to Adola. Meanwhile, there's also a nun named Sumair, who did experiments on the children of St. Raphael's Covenant to create 3rd-generation pyrokinetics. Yes, she's also the reason for the burning of all of those children, causing Hibana and Iris great trauma. And Hibana's the one to discover her laboratory and piece it together. The next team is the Knights of Purple Smoke. Though we meet the full gang hidden within the Nether, Ritsu comes out into the light to help spread infernals and draw the cataclysm closer. She, a necropyro user, is the commander of the unit while also serving as Inka's protector until the big day. The other members are Orochi, who severely wounded Juggernaut before being killed by him, Iron, and Sasori. The last two were beaten down by Captains Gustav and Obi in Season 2, and didn't accomplish much, honestly. The Destroyers are arguably the strongest team, hence the name. They're also one of the biggest ops, and as we approach the final steps of the plan, and the possible end of the world, among their ranks are Assault, Dragon, Gold, and Stream. Though Assault acts more as comedic relief with his crush on Tamaki, his skills are no joke. But because of his desire for Tamaki, he ends up helping her overcome the White-Clad doppelganger who tries to kill her. Yeah, you heard it right. There are doppelgangers too, including some of the strongest characters in the series like First Company Captain Burns. So the White-Clad aren't the only enemies coming for the Fire Force in the final season. But back to the Destroyers and how this all plays out. Gold, the only female of their squad, was the one responsible for Captain Haig's brutal crucifixion-esque death. This was possible due to her control of gold and other metals, and the heating up of them that creates magnetic fields. She was also meant to infernalize Captain Obi after he was captured, but failed when the 8th Company came to his rescue. With no one else willing or allowed to join, she ends up getting taken down by them, with her colleague Stream taking over the task. He uses a combination of air and fire to create incredibly powerful attacks, but can't handle the unpredictable and effective slashes that Arthur uses when he eventually shows up. He's always lost somewhere. That leaves us with Dragon, the most fearsome of their team. It's no surprise that he eventually has to face Arthur, considering his obsession with knights in medieval times. Who better to slay a dragon than him? But before that happens, Dragon demonstrates just why he's a top assassin, and why many believe he's actually an infernal. Despite Arthur's plasma attacks being one of the strongest in the series, even interfering with Haomiya's mind control, Dragon withstands them without injury. And to ensure that he's not damaged, Dragon can add hard scales to parts of his body through infernalizing them. The backlash also hurts the enemy, in this case Arthur. If not for Benimaru in disguise coming to help the 8th Company, Dragon would have ended them. But the war's not over. Remember how there was a person inside Amaterasu providing power? Well, the other pillars start to come into play, under attack and expected to become sacrifices as well, though many protectors are within the White-Clad. They don't all wish to see their charges die. Sharon only wants Haumea to be happy, and Arrow will follow Sho wherever she chooses to go, including betraying the organization if needed. On the other hand, Inca and Ritsu seem the most accepting when it comes to the Cataclysm and their lives ending when it happens. But the problem is some pillars have guardians outside of the White-Clad, like Shinra, who has both Arthur and Joker, or Iris, who has none. Then, of course, there's the semi-toxic relationship between Kurono of Haijima and Nataku's son. It's as if the Evangelists don't consider how not assigning White-Clad guardians to all pillars might hurt their goal. But I digress. Back to the dragon and his ridiculously strong body, Arthur creates a new weapon to face the man, and still can't seem to even cut him with plasma attacks. So, what's the next step? Going into space to fight, obviously. Technically, it's because of Charon and his power being bounced away by Hinawa and sent towards Dragon, but still. Dragon's bored out there in space, though, and decides that it would be more fun to show just how much stronger he is than Arthur. As someone with no enemies to challenge him and nothing to live for, Arthur represents a sliver of hope for Dragon. Their fight goes from land to ocean, into the sky and clouds, and all the way to the moon. Somehow, they're both fine with no oxygen and continue their battle there. Even after losing an eye, a hand, and his lower half, Arthur never stops facing the scaled man and his blasts of fire from his mouth. They accept their death at each other's hands, while Dragon finally gets hope from having been pushed this far. But just because Dragon has been defeated doesn't mean the world is saved. In fact, the rest is up to Shinra and everyone else on the ground. Remember how I mentioned that the gang led by Fairy was created solely to cause despair? So that's what they do next. As soon as humanity is starting to get hope thanks to Dragon's loss, he actually draws the moon towards the planet, and it's too strong for even Maki to keep back. Once Fairy's unit sacrifices themselves, the doppelgangers from another dimension are brought to Earth. Benimaru's is the first to show up, along with Kurono and Assault's doubles from the shadows. And Assault's doppelganger can't resist Tamaki's lucky lecture, but she refuses to be ashamed, triggering an interesting meta-commentary on social and ideologies. The original Haumea faces Shinra and Sho in a past dimension, with the reveal that she used to be pure and kind, but she was forced to take in the sins of all humanity and became corrupted by it. If that's not enough, she also hears the revelation of God, creating eyes void of any light that she always kept covered. All she has to look forward to is the end of her despair. With her true power, she killed both Inca and Sumair, who was immortal, granting them freedom in her own way. But that also brings forward the Evangelist at last, basically the consciousness of the entire world made into a being. Both Haumea and the Evangelist believed that the only way to end all suffering is to end the world completely. That way the cycle of pain and destruction wouldn't continue. This begins a philosophical debate of whether killing her would help bring about a change, or if Shinra is just following exactly the cycle that Haumea is talking about. Through killing her to stop the murders, he would be creating freedom for the people who she killed before. In a way, it would be like agreeing with her on a smaller scale. So instead of trying to kill her and the Evangelist for what they did to Iris, they choose to just attack her. But even Sho's stop time effect does nothing. Their attacks don't even reach Haumea despite her not moving. But thanks to the other pillars, Haumea has gained all their abilities, and that's how she's become even more powerful. And she keeps taunting Shinra just because of his desire for revenge, to push him to kill her. If his brother Sho weren't there to calm him down, he probably would. But if he and Shinra fall, it would mean the only pillar left in the world is Haumea, who would gladly bring about the Cataclysm. As soon as Obi is killed on Earth by his doppelganger, Shinra can't hold back anymore and lets the rage win. This leads to everyone being set on fire, while Haumea looks on with sadness and relief. However, this doesn't mean that everyone has given up on enjoying life. Benimaru and his town of misfits decide to spend the rest of the time they have drinking sake and being together. Instead of a dark end, it's a bittersweet celebration for them. And now that the entire world is covered in black flames, Haumea awaits Shinra's gift of death to her, and all Sho can do is look on with disappointment and guilt at letting his brother become engulfed in anger. But you probably forgot about one man who defies most odds through sheer belief, and that's Shinra's protector, Arthur. He shouldn't be alive after his battle with Dragon and all the limbs that he lost, but he's renewed and knocking sense into Shinra's head. After a heartwarming look into Kusakabe's household, it's revealed that Shinra and Sho's mother is actually the doppelganger of the Evangelist. And previously we found out Mari became pregnant without any partner, so it makes more sense now. Even as an infernal, she retains her memories. And with hope regained, Haumea and the Evangelist's despair struggles to keep back the Kusakabe family when they join as one entity named Shinra Banshoman. They try to fight back with attacks filled with despair and the words meant to discourage, but it doesn't work. That's when they also combine to create the Holy Woman of Despair. But the dark flames that she tries to drag him into are turned into flowers of hope. And extinct animals show up too. And when the Holy Woman throws an attack at Shinra, she just launches it into the air and creates an atmosphere to get rid of the black flames next. But this overwhelming power only brings more despair for Haumea, who knows not everyone can be strong and stand up the way that he has. Not everyone will be able to free themselves of despair, even if he saves the world again. But instead of letting despair set in like she fears, Shinra Banshoman decides to create everything that was lost. And all the tears that Haumea had been crying are turned into the lost souls, even of the people Shinra never met. And some may come back looking a bit different, but at least they're alive. Even those random people who got killed in the Nether through really funny flashbacks return to the world. But Haumea isn't convinced because she believes that this would just lead to the same hell over time. Those who died have strange changes to their bodies, but not the fear or worry that they used to have. Everything is carefree now. But Haumea's worries is not good enough, which leads to the solution that if it doesn't satisfy her, she'll just destroy it all and start again. To convince her, Charon is also brought back and has a deep conversation as her guardian. The problem is, the despair that was in her for so long is now free and sentient. But Shinra Banshoman banishes it, allowing everyone to live properly in the world this time. Also, Shinra doesn't stay a god. He creates one to replace him, and to take everyone's powers away. That way, everyone is equal, and only one entity is above them all. The epilogue does get a bit wild, especially since Shinra created massive creatures that allowed mythical monsters to be real. Plus, there's the part where anyone who was extremely physically strong before became even more so now, just minus the fire powers. But the weirdest part is Inca wanting Shinra's babies, because he's the savior of the world. Only the babies though, not him. 25 years later, Shinra has his own children become protectors of the world. And much later on, the god of death decides to create a child in the image of the savior from the past. And this links it directly to Soul Eater as a confirmed prequel to that series. If you liked the video, guys, please give it a like and please subscribe if you haven't already. Have a great day and I'll see you in the next one.